They mocked an old man's dream, laughed in his face, thought he was nothing. But then Clint Eastwood walked through that door, and by the next day, he owned their world and they lost everything. This isn't just a story, it's a reckoning. Joseph, a black man pushing 80, stepped into a gleaming car dealership on a biting winter morning. His coat was threadbare, patched at the elbows from years of hard living. His shoes scraped the floor, worn thin by decades of steps. He'd saved every dime, years of sweat and sacrifice for a car to call his own. "Something reliable," he said, voice soft but steady, his weathered hand pointing to a silver sedan that shone like a promise under the showroom lights. The staff didn't even glance his way. Garrett, a young salesman with slick back hair and a cocky grin, lounged by the counter, scrolling his phone. He looked up, sized Joseph up, and sneered. "You afford that? Keep dreaming, Pops. Stick to the bus." Laughter erupted, sharp, cruel, bouncing off the polished walls. Another salesman, wiping a car nearby, chimed in. "He's lost. Probably can't even drive that thing." A third voice hissed, "What's he doing here? Wasting our time." Joseph's hands trembled. He gripped his cane tighter, but his eyes stayed proud, unbowed. The air grew heavy with their scorn. Then the glass doors slammed open. Clint Eastwood strode in, boots thudding, jacket caked with dust, face carved from stone. He stopped dead, taking it all in. Garrett's smirk, the crew's snickers, Joseph's quiet hurt. The room hushed, but tension crackled. "What's going on here?" Clint rasped, voice low, a storm brewing. Garrett shrugged, tossing a lazy glance. "Just an old-timer clogging up the place. Nothing to see." Clint's eyes narrowed to slits. "Show him the car," he said, each word a blade. Garrett laughed, loud, reckless, oblivious. "Get real, man. Take your buddy and beat it." The crew chuckled again, sealing their fate. Clint's fists clenched. They'd crossed the line, and he'd make them pay. Clint didn't blink. He turned slow, boots scraping, and walked out, leaving the door to slam like a gunshot. The crew smirked, thinking they'd won. They were dead wrong. That night, Clint didn't sleep. He sat in his truck, shadows dancing across his face, phone pressed to his ear. Old contacts answered, favors from decades past, men who owed him big. Cash flowed like a river, deals locked tight. By dawn, he'd bought the dealership. Every wall, every car, every smug smile in it. Next morning, he rolled back in. Same dusty jacket, same steel gaze. Joseph trailing quiet behind him. The showroom buzzed, salesmen chatting, phones ringing, until Clint's boots hit the floor. Garrett spotted them, grin splitting wide. "You two again? What's this? A pity parade?" Clint stepped forward, papers clutched in one hand, and slapped them down on the counter with a thud. "I own this now," he growled, voice slicing the air like a whip. Garrett's smirk froze, then shattered. His eyes darted to the papers, hands shaking as he flipped through. You're joking," he stammered, voice cracking, stepping back into a display car. Clint leaned in, eyes burning like coals. "Pack your bags, kid. Make my day." Silence crashed down. Tools clattered as the crew stopped cold. Thomas, the manager, shoved through, sweat beading on his brow. "You can't do this. I run this place." Clint turned, slow as death. "Not anymore. You're fired too. Doors that way." Thomas sputtered, face red, but one look at Clint's glare shut him up. The room watched, stunned, breathless, as their world flipped. They'd mocked the wrong man, and Clint Eastwood was their reckoning. Garrett bolted, tail tucked, no words left, tripping over a chair as he grabbed his jacket. Thomas followed, mumbling excuses that faded into nothing. Out the door in under 5 minutes. Half the crew got the axe. Every sneering face Clint remembered from the day before was gone by noon. The showroom stood quiet, air thick with shock. Clint turned to Joseph, still by the silver sedan, cane steady in his hand. "Pick your car," Clint said, voice calm but firm. "It's yours, no charge." Joseph's eyes widened. years of struggle melting as a faint smile broke through. He ran a hand along the sedan's hood, nodded once, and took the keys Clint pressed into his palm. Then Clint scanned the room, landing on Laura, a young cashier who'd slipped Joseph a kind nod the day before amid the chaos. "You're in charge now," he said, pointing. "Respect every soul that walks through that door, or you're next." Laura swallowed hard but stood taller, nodding fast. Weeks rolled by. The dealership transformed. Sales spiked. Cars flew off the lot. Customers lined up, drawn by whispers of the old man and the legend who flipped the place. Clint didn't stick around to bask. He tipped his hat to Joseph, climbed back in his beat-up truck, and drove off, dust swirling in his wake. The engine's rumble a final word. The lesson burned deep. Mock an old man, and Clint Eastwood will bury you. Clint got justice, and they got nothing. Drop your story below. Hit that subscribe for more epic payback.